Welcome back to the meeting after the meeting, everyone. We're your hosts, David O.
Eric V.
And Allie B.
And today we are joined by our very lovely, boisterous, amazing guest from California, Jen. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I feel like I need to say Jen P.
Jen P. There you go. Perfect.
The first and last initial.
We're going to do a quick lightning round of questions. When were you first introduced to recovery?
When I was probably early 20s.
And how long have you been clean?
9 years.
Perfect. All right. Well, with all that out of the way, I believe Jen will clue us in to the topic we will be covering tonight and then take it away. So, pitter patter, let's get at her, Jen.
That's it, right? That was it. That was it. Now it's up to me.
Yep.
Oh my God! Help me.
Yeah. I want David to get rid of that whole part because,
Pitter patter.
Yeah. Well, I hate
I
that.
like the pitter patter.
No, I hate it.
I love the pitter patter.
I hate it.
Thank you.
I support pitter patter.
Go ahead.
I support whatever Allie supports. It's all about girl power. Yes. Unity. Yes. Usually I'm outnumbered. This is amazing. Oh,
I know.
I hear ya. So I think today, what's really coming up for me, I think it's really important that we talk about trauma, unresolved trauma, childhood trauma, the fact that just the addiction experience itself is traumatic. And I think it is in a lot of traditional recovery programs and groups, it's considered like an outside issue, which I think I've spoken on this every time I've talked to you, how much I despise that term.
Yep.
I believe everything is the issue, are the issues, and what we need to be healing and talking about and encouraging people to heal from. So for me, I mean, I've shared my story on here before, but obviously I come from a long line of childhood trauma. And my drug use was just a manifestation of trauma. My drug use was just a way to cope with trauma, with childhood sexual abuse and cult survivor and, dysfunctional family, abusive family.
I forgot the cult survivor.
Yeah.
I forgot that.
How could you?
I'm sorry.
That's like my, everybody loves that story. That's pretty gnarly, right?
Well, for Allie B, give her the quick synopsis.
So
yeah, I'm intrigued. Yeah, please.
Allie B, yes, I am a cult survivor. So I grew up, I was born in California, but when I was 2.5, my parents joined a religious cult. And everybody moved all the way to Mobile, Alabama. And we lived there in the same area. We ate at the same place. All the kids went to the same school. We were segregated and separated from our outside family, outside friends, anyone outside this, and I'm going to put quotations in the air, church. It wasn't a church, but that's what they called themselves. And so as the years went on, the abuse started getting more severe. Financial abuse, physical abuse, spiritual abuse, all kinds of mental abuse, and then obviously sexual abuse. So when I was about 5, this elder called me into his office, and I came from a very broken family. They knew everything about our families. In fact, they had file cabinets in one of the elders' offices that had each family, a file for each family, and very personal information about everyone. Like even information about the husband and wife's sex lives. Yeah. So he knew exactly what kind of family I come from. My mom has a lot of mental health problems and suicide attempt and all this stuff. They saw that as demon possession, not as a medical issue.
Wow.
Anyways, and my dad was very low on the totem pole in that hierarchy. So anyways, he called me in and he sat me on his lap, and I was starving for attention, starving for love from my home. I had none of that. And he started playing with my hair and coloring with me in coloring books and singing me songs and telling me that, I was one of God's chosen ones. And we were taught he was much closer to God than any of us ever would be. And so I really enjoyed this time with him. It gave me so much that I was lacking. But then over the time, it started off very slow and very nice. But over time, it turned into something so frightening and so confusing that I would disassociate from my body and just drift off and leave myself to him to do whatever he wanted. And then I would pull my little dress down and walk out, and I never said a word. In fact, I never told anyone until I was 26. Yeah. But, he sexually molested me until my dad finally, a man started coming around secretly offering to rescue families from the situation. It was growing very, very bad. And so my dad, I think that gave my dad kind of the clue, like, hello, maybe this situation is bad. Maybe this isn't right. And so we were there, and then we just moved. We didn't say goodbye to anybody. It seemed so weird to me. I was almost 10. Anyways, but I remember, and it was, by the way, disbanded as a documented cult. So it was not a church or a weird church or just a fundamentalist church. It was a documented cult. And so I thought when I left that it was over. I'm leaving it behind and I can move on. I mean, I'm 10. What the fuck do I know about life? Mm-hmm. Everything I knew about life was painful, to be honest. Mm-hmm. Love meant pain. God meant pain. Church meant pain. My mom meant pain. Everything meant pain. And when we moved here, which is where in the same town I live in now, so I've lived here since I was 10, trauma. I had no idea it was trauma. I just thought there was a lot of things really wrong with me and that I was really dirty and damaged and broken. And I just kept more and more secrets and just held it all inside. And the shame just consumed me till I could barely breathe. And nightmares and PTSD and hypervigilance, super jumpy. I started, eating disorders. This is all manifestations of trauma. It's all a way to get some control, to have some control over your body when you have your body in any sense, in any type of trauma, complex trauma, unresolved trauma, you have no control over your body. It just reacts. I was disassociating just at random times. Just all of a sudden, a time would have gone by and I don't even know what happened. Everything was to protect myself. It's drugs and alcohol saved my life. I've said that before, and I will always say that. I became suicidal. I just thought I wasn't meant to live on this earth. I just thought there was something so wrong with me, and that my mom didn't love me. She always wanted to kill herself and told me it was my fault. So clearly, I believed her. Of course, I'm a child. I was such a dirty girl, my hands are in quotation marks, with what had happened to me in that organization, with that elder. I never saw myself as a victim. In fact, I have taken ownership of that. I was a participant until I was in my 30s. Silence and secrets turn in, the thing is that none of that shit was ever my secrets. Those were always their secrets. But when you don't speak on something, it manifests and twists and turns until you think it's your secret. And now somehow you've taken ownership over something that was never yours to carry. Never your burden, ever once. And all that silence, all those secrets, all those times I never told anybody, all those times I never fought him off, all those times I never even said anything, grew into my own shame. And so, all that trauma just, I became suicidal. I don't think I became suicidal because I have any type of clinical depression. It was absolutely trauma induced. And so I found alcohol in the nick of time. And that's a weird thing to say, I guess. But I mean, I was very close to attempting to do what I had seen my mom try to do tons of times. Here I had the formula. I kind of had it down. I've been trying to save my mom from doing this, so I kind of knew, I think about my son, who's 7, and if he were to, I don't think he'd even at this point have a clue at the way he lives, not that other 7-year-olds don't, but just the way his home life would have really even a clue how to go about that at this point, really. But by 7, man, I had it down. I've been trying to save my mom and intervene on her just over and over again. Anyway, so I found alcohol in the nick of time. Alcohol and drugs, like I said, did save me. It quieted that beast of shame. It was a coping skill for trauma. And the link and the road between trauma and addiction is like this two-way road that constantly leads back into itself. So you have trauma, and then, it is like ridiculous how many people have trauma that fall into addictions, right? Or problematic drug use, whatever you want to call it. And then while you're in an addiction, you are then put yourself at more risk to get re-traumatized because of the dangerous situations you're in, the criminal activity, rape, being robbed, just even the effects that being a slave to a substance, just that alone causes trauma. Mm-hmm. The opposite of trauma is choice. So anything that happens to you, happens around you, where you are not in control, where it was not your choice. And I personally believe whether or not the first time I used or drank was my choice, after that, it was not. So all these behaviors I did in those addictions, all the times I would be throwing up, walking on the street, trying to get to connect because I was out of heroin. All the people I hung around, these were not good people. I shouldn't say good people. These were unsafe people. Mm-hmm. I was raped, of course. All these things happened. So then I was re-traumatized. So now I have trauma from my childhood. Now I have current trauma. And then it goes even further to say that it is a mental fact, whatever, psychological fact that people who use substances to the point of problematic use, they are less resilient to withstand new trauma. Mm-hmm. So it's like this loop that just, it's like you're traumatized, you start using, you get re-traumatized, you cannot even handle stubbing your toe at this point, and then you need more drugs. And so it's like this loop that never ends. And so you pull the drugs and alcohol out of the situation, okay? So you go to treatment, or you go to your 12 steps, or you go to Celebrate Recovery, you go to church, you go online, whatever it is, and you pull the drugs and alcohol out of that equation. That equation still looks really fucked up.
Oh, yeah.
There is not a lot of true healing that's going to happen by just pulling out the drugs or alcohol. So when I got sober, I assumed that drugs and alcohol were my problem, because here I was in prison, in and out of jail, homeless, my teeth were coming out, falling out of my face. I had, track marks and abscesses and all these negative, things, outside and inside, but all these negative things that revolved around my drug use, because that was the most easy, quick, tangible thing that I could grab, that a court could grab, that a counselor could grab, was the drugs and alcohol. So you pull that out. So I thought, okay, I'll be fixed. This is what's causing me all these problems. And God loved the 12 steps. God loved recovery, but they are not trauma-informed, and they are not designed, they were not created to address trauma. And that's okay. Mm-hmm. That's not what they're there for. They're there to address drug use, drug behaviors, wreckage, making amends, giving back. These are all wonderful, wonderful things. However, when you have trauma, and everyone has trauma, everyone has different levels of trauma. But when you're in the addiction sphere, the amount of trauma is ginormous. Even if you came from a wonderful childhood, the things you went through during your time of drug use, or even if during your time of drug use, you got to live in your parents' house, they were your drug dealers, everything was pretty cushy, whatever, just the event and the fact that you were not in the control anymore of your body and that you had to have something to feel even well is the lack of choice, therefore creates trauma. So in recovery, we have enormous amounts of trauma just swimming around. And in traditional recovery groups, these things, this is not a trauma-informed circle. It's not supposed to be. It's okay. It's not saying anything bad about it. But when we make that kind of stuff an outside issue, when we make it kind of taboo to talk about sexual abuse because you're in an AA meeting, when we make it kind of like hush, hush, just talk to your sponsor who is not trauma-informed, who is not a psychiatrist, who is not a therapist, by the way. They shouldn't have to be. That's not what they're there for. But they are none of those things. Talk to your sponsor about the fact that you were raped. Well, your sponsor is only going to be able to go so far, or your mentor, or whatever it's called, or your pastor, or whatever. Mm-hmm. So when we make all these things so hush-hush, and so taboo, and so an quote-unquote outside issue, and we say it works if you work it. So if you're not feeling better by now, you're not working it hard enough. There's certain things, certain sayings, certain language that are used that are very harmful. And I became suicidal again, and trust me, I do not have clinical depression. This is all about trauma. About 2 years in recovery, because all I did was focus on what I was told. I did what I was told. Yes, things got better on the outside. I was no longer at risk to go to prison. I was no longer, on the streets looking for drugs. These are wonderful, wonderful. Getting sober was like the key to being able to face all the things I needed to face. Uh-huh. But the pain from all this untouched, just torture trauma that I had never thought was any part of anything consumed me. And I thought, if this is recovery, I'd rather fucking die. If this is what it feels like, if I have to be disassociating and still tortured by nightmares and still feeling dirty and disgusting and unworthy and useless, and I'm working it because, I'm working it. They're telling me I'm not working it right. I'm not working it hard enough. I'm not being as honest, open, I really was. But it was not designed to help all of me. I needed extra help. So this is not an unusual story, by the way. This is so fucking common that it is heartbreaking to me, because there's no such thing as good as it gets in recovery. Mm-hmm. And so if you are working your traditional program and you are still in pain, please please, please, please be an advocate for yourself and step outside of that box and heal your life. You do not have to leave your program. You do not have to leave your favorite NA home group or your church. You can add in, bring it all in. Bring in a therapist, bring in EMDR, bring in yoga, bring in hypnotherapy, bring whatever the fuck it is in, because you are worthy and you are capable of actually way more than just not drinking and using and just making amends for your wrongdoing. There's just so much more to recovery in life. Personally, Absolutely. That's my opinion. So I decided that I was going to give myself one more shot. I just thought, before I give up, I'm just going to try. And I remember the day. I got on Google. Thank God for Google. Fucking Google, man. I got on Google and I Googled, I think I Googled childhood sexual abuse or sex abuse, something. And I fucking fell apart on the floor. It was the first time I had acknowledged even a little bit that I was abused and not that I was dirty and wrong and disgusting and going to molest my own children and, going to become a pedophile myself. It was the first time I acknowledged it. And what I found was that I was not alone. Mm-hmm. And that is probably the biggest power of all recovery programs, is to have people to know that you are not alone. That's to me, that's the most powerful part of everything. And I know everyone says meetings without step work. Me, I don't go any direction on any program at all. But I really feel that the community and just that is so powerful to hear. Me Too. And Me Too does not have to just be about sexual assault. Me Too can be about anything. And I realized that I'm not alone. And I felt so alone my entire life. And getting sober saved my life. Trauma work saved my recovery. Once I began advocating for myself, standing up for myself, saying what I'm doing is great, but it's not enough, and it's not because I'm not doing it right or working hard enough. It's because I need more, and I deserve more, and I'm going to try for more before I fucking kill myself. My entire world just opened up wide. So now, today, sitting here in 2020 shitstorm, my mission is, right? My mission is to, whenever I can, whenever I'm given the opportunity, is to speak about the fact that trauma work is severely lacking in addiction recovery. And that we need to talk about it, and we need to bring it out. And if people don't know, if nobody talks about it, nobody knows about it. I say this about everything. If no one fucking talks about it, then no one's going to know about it. And if no one knows about it, people are going to continue to suffer from it. And the whole reason that I'm here today in this world, the whole reason I'm alive, I believe, that I managed to escape death so many times, is to help people not suffer the way I did, for as long as I did, and the extremities I did. That's my mission. It's not to say I'm the winner chicken dinner. This is my recovery program, and since it worked for me, it's going to work for you. Let's all, we all want to be the fucking winner here. It's not about, if it's about you being the winner, then you're in it for the wrong reason.
Yep.
There's this thing that doctors do called crowdsourcing. I watched this documentary I think it was called Crowdsourcing, to be honest. But it was about rare patients with these random rare medical issues, syndromes, diseases, unexplainable, or, no one's been able to help them thus far. And what this doctor does is she takes these cases and she crowdsources amongst all the specialists that she knows across the world, and sends the case to specialists in Africa, specialists in England, specialists in wherever, and they all come together and work together to treat this patient. Why in the hell? Please, someone tell me. Why in the hell are we not doing this in recovery? Why are we not crowdsourcing? If someone does not feel comfortable in church at Celebrate Recovery, why are we not, those of us in Celebrate Recovery, let's say, why are we not saying, listen, honey, you could try this, 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 this. The goal is to help people, not to be the winner. My God. I mean, right?
Yeah. No, I'm totally with you. I think there needs to be way more cohesiveness and just willingness to work together between all fellowships. Like we need to stop trying to mold people to like a specific standard of whatever fellowship it is, and really listen to them and be like, hey, this might not be the place for you. These are other options. Check them out too. Whichever one fits and is great for you, please use that.
I'm telling you. So, and the thing is, like, I want, let's be supportive. Like, it's unfortunate, I believe. And I think that this is something that many of us actually play a part in why this is not being fixed. But the 12-step fellowship is everywhere. It's everywhere. It's free. So it is very commonly, it's everywhere. I love that, because a lot of these other programs cost money. And I don't know about you guys, but when I got in recovery, I couldn't even afford a fucking jelly bean. Okay? I couldn't even.
We were just talking about jelly beans.
Really?
Yes. Right before you got on, we were talking about our favorite Jelly Bellies.
Well, I couldn't even afford a Jelly Belly. I couldn't afford, nothing. So thank
those are gourmet jelly beans.
Yeah. Thank God I had the free, that was accessible, and I think that we need to make these other avenues way more accessible so that it is available to everybody, because obviously this is a very, everyone says this, but nobody's cookie cutter. Everybody's different. And if the 12 step, it's so complicated because I obviously my foundation is in the 12 steps, so I know their slogans way more, but, sometimes it doesn't work even if you work it. And it's not because the program doesn't work. It's because it does not fit the person. That's all. No egos need to be hurt. Nobody lost. Nobody's winning. The only person that's losing is the person suffering.
Yes, 100%.
So, I don't know. I just feel like, the trauma thing needs to be talked about. I feel like we need to be bringing in way more, conversations about this, And I, for me, like I said, trauma work saved my recovery. Like I couldn't go on like that much longer. And I think that relapse rates happen so often, and there's all kinds of factors into that. But I think a lot of times, more times than not, it's because of unresolved trauma.
Yeah. It's a lot of things.
It's a lot of things, right? And sometimes it's just because someone's not ready. I get all that, Yeah.
There's a lot of factors.
But if you just remove the drugs and alcohol from that big loop, there's
it's
still
the first step.
It's the first step, but there's still such a mess there that is actually fixable. It is actually there. You can heal from that. So that's my jam. That's my get down. And I've heard a lot of it's just this whole year has been a fucking nightmare. And I hear a lot like, "Whoa, well, if you've been to prison or if you've been institutionalized, then this is no big deal." Well, let me clarify.
A lot different.
It's a lot different, and it can also bring up trauma from being institutionalized and imprisoned. So let's not throw out this. I hate junk statements. I just hate. I used to do them myself. I used to do tons of them myself. Junk statements, blank statements that just wound people unintentionally, but make people think there's something wrong with them if they are actually feeling really triggered. I've been to prison, okay? I've been to jail. I've been to institutions. I've done it all. This virus being locked down has brought up a lot of stuff for me from past traumas. So do not tell me that I should be able to muscle through this since I can sit on my couch versus being in my cell. Don't tell anybody that, because what actually can happen is this can actually bring upon a trigger. A trigger response, a trauma response. I don't know.
Oh.
Interesting.
All right. Well, I definitely have a question, and this is going to be for both you and Allie, because Eric and I have penises, and it doesn't relate to us.
Really?
I mean, Eric does, and I'm like 50-50 on mine, but...
if you get married, you lose your penis. That's what I heard.
Oh, yeah, my wife has that.
Okay.
So, both of you, obviously, as women, how do you ladies begin to build up a level of self-esteem and strength and ultimately a level of security in your mind? Because it sucks, and this is a shitty statement, but it's a fucking man's world. Like, the drug world is a man's world, and even demographically, recovery is predominantly ruled by men. So when you guys have so many negative interactions with men and traumatic experiences, psychologically, emotionally, sexually, how do you come into recovery and really feel safe and build yourself up in a healthy way to really have a true sense of self and in recovery? Whichever one of you wants to go first.
I'll let Allie go since I just talked my ass off forever. Unless you want me to go, Allie.
No, I can go. So I might not have your traditional feminist answer for this, but it's just my shit and how I perceive stuff. So I did have some traumatic sexual instances happen pre-using, during using, even post-using, in early recovery. But one of the things that I did for ways and means to get more was I was a stripper, and in some way, shape, or form, I got to own my sexuality. It taught me how to own it, right? It's mine. Fuck you, right? Fuck what you want to do with it. I'm going to control this, and I'm going to make you give me what you want, kind of thing, or what I want. And I'm going to give you the illusion that you're getting what you want. So kind of I don't know, I kind of had this standoffish relationship with men, just always thinking that they just always want something, but when I came into the Ribbed End, it's something that I don't normally talk about in early recovery, or actually something that I don't talk about enough, throughout my recovery. The guy that I was living with, so me being I manipulated people. That was my game. That was my hustle, and I knew I could manipulate men, right? Because I learned how to do that at a very young age, manipulating my dad to, whatever. Yeah, basically, yeah, I know how to pull up people's heartstrings, the whole 9 yards. I manipulated my whole life, and I saw, I was oh, man's weakness, I can capitalize off of this. Anyway, so when I came into the rooms, it was really a weird time for me, because the guy who was my biggest enabler, who honestly looking back through some step work, thank God for this man. he was clean. He had substantial double digits, 20 plus years clean time, but he was like buying me drugs and allowing me to live in his house without contributing to anything. You know, and I just enabled the shit out of me. So like, I kind of had this like, I don't know, like standoffish vibe already, especially with like older men in recovery. I was like, fuck you, you're a slime ball. And like, I feel really blessed because like where we live, dude, there's a ton of women who have some hardcore recovery and like who have like recovered from some traumatic shit, some ugly shit, some serious stuff. So like, I just kind of like, you know, stuck with them and, I like kept guys at bay. And like, of course, you know, me being new, like I found the sickest dude that I could who was like nothing but a mirror, for like every single relationship that I'd ever been in. And, you know, yeah, like I participated willingly, clean, well, somewhat clean. I was on methadone. So in my defense, I wasn't in my right mind.
It was a methadone relationship. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. I was still using. Technically, I was not clean. But like I was making strides, right, to a new way of life. And dude, it just like totally mirrored every single relationship that I'd ever been in and like all of the parts that like they played versus I played. And it really gave me a chance to like assess, like honestly assess like my part in the situation and their part in the situation. And like I noticed, like I'm a pretty observant person. So like there are certain groups in my area that are like heavily home group members with like middle-aged men, like, you know, kind of like, I don't want to say triggers for me, but like, you know, just whatever, like not my cup of tea. So I would like stay away from them. I would like not drink with them. And I certainly didn't join those home groups because like, what am I going to bring to the table? Like I had to find some place that I felt comfortable. And what's crazy is that the home group that I joined, it was probably one of the most outspoken men I have ever met my entire life, who would probably kill someone in the heat of the moment if, you know, whatever. I love this man to death. Like, I love him to death, but he is a very hardcore individual. And, man, like, him and I had, like, this intense debate, and we disagreed about something. And, like, he taught me that, like, it's okay to disagree. And that, like, he's, like, kind of, like, he told me, like, he loved me. And I knew it wasn't just, like, creepy, like, hey, I kind of want to fuck you, so I'm going to say I love you. It was, like, a wholehearted, genuine, like, I fucking love you, you know? And he convinced me that, like, I needed to, you know, get a home group. And I joined that home group. And he, like, taught me that, like, my voice was worth it, you know? I was valuable, my opinion, my experience, and my whatever, like willingness to help was important. And yeah, I don't know. Like, I think that we as addicts, like especially women, like we've had to learn like really bizarre traits to just be able to survive in active addiction. Yeah. So like we can like read a room really quickly. Like, you know, I mean, I could. That was basically my job for like 8 years. It was like, okay, you're a waste of time. You're a creep. You know, like, so I just brought those kind of themes, like,
I was the waste
kind
of time.
Thing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you were, yes, yeah. So, but anyway, so like, I kind of
cute, but he's broke.
Like,
fuck that guy.
I would have been like, yeah, just give him a drink on me, whatever. Anyway, so, like, you would have been someone to have a good conversation with.
Yes.
Like,
I love conversating with strippers. I love like this one had like, dude, she had like a tattoo of a chemical like compound on her body. I was like, I know what that is. And she was like, oh my god, I'm in like fucking biochemistry class. And I was like, oh my god. So we sat there and had a conversation for like 45 minutes. And she was like, do you want a lap dance? I was like, no. She was like, okay, fuck you.
Yeah. Okay. No. Cool. Nice conversation. Moving on with my night. Yeah. So like, I just kind of took this. Exactly. I just whatever. Good conversation is never a waste of time. Okay. It is a vital part of everyday life. Never a waste of time. So like, I just kind of took those kind of skills and like, I don't know, like I like honed into it. So like, I kind of like no men could objectify me because I had already objectified myself. And I was not going to use that shit as like a way for you to manipulate me. Like when I came to the room, I put it all out on the table because I didn't want some fucking creepy ass dude, you know, a year of me getting clean and being like, oh, I heard you like used to do this. It was like, fuck you. I'm going to own it. I'm going to own my shit. You can't hold it over, you know, make me try to feel shame or guilt or whatever about it. I'm just going to tell you about it now. And I'm going to stay away from the ones that like are giving me the weird vibes and make comments about like underhanded comments. Like I'm going to stick with like the women, right? And like, you know, stick with people who I know truly, genuinely just want to help me. And it did. Like it honestly, like I feel like listening to you, Sarah, I was like, God, I feel so fucking lucky. I feel so blessed because I just came in and I like met this amazing group of people and like they taught me like how to have a voice, how to like, you know, get outside help for trauma and that it's not an outside issue, that it is directly related. And it's like all this like good shit, man. And I don't know, like it just I could see like somebody not having that experience struggling. Because it is hard. Like if you don't know a creep from, you know, a regular dude, it would be very hard to navigate sometimes. But I mean, your gut. If you have a intuition of any type, you know, your gut, and hopefully there's like a strong ass, badass recovering chick in the meeting that can like, dude, I have like gone up to intervened on plenty of people in my day of seeing like some weird shit. Like, hey, why don't you come over here and hang out with us? Like, hey, why don't you, you know, whatever, sit with us. So, yeah, I hope that answers your question. I don't really fucking know if I did, but okay.
Yeah, that was good. My turn?
Yeah.
Let's see. So I think very commonly for women, seems to be common, is that women don't trust other women, especially when we're first coming into recovery. And my opinion on that, and my own experience, is that I didn't trust anyone until I became trustworthy.
Mm-hmm.
Until I myself became trustworthy. It's like we project. I projected myself onto everybody. So I was not trustworthy, so I obviously saw everybody else as not trustworthy, women or men. Now, coming from, you know, sexual assault and stuff like that, like, my time in my addiction, I pretty much existed like I was a guy. I have been beaten up by so many guys, I don't even know, I can't even count, because I would be so aggressive and be so confrontational because I didn't want anyone to hurt me. The thing is, I was always hurting so much inside and so terrified inside. But I wanted to portray that I was super tough, untouchable, unfazable, and I would get myself into these just incredibly dangerous situations. I mean, so dangerous, where I'm the only girl amongst a bunch of guys that don't even speak English, and I'm pretending I can speak Spanish and understand it, but I can't. I only know a little bit. Words pitter-patter, here and there. And I would be, on my way across the Tijuana border to drive machine guns because I thought I was respected. But what really was happening is that I was the only idiot white person that is going to risk like their freedom and drive across the border, and I might pass because I'm a white girl. I might get by through.
You were gun running to Mexico?
Yes, I was.
That's dope.
That's hard. That's some badass shit.
It's so beyond stupid because I thought I was,
highly stupid, yeah.
I mean, beyond. And by the grace of God, I did not get caught. I mean, I always say that I'm so grateful for what I went to prison for versus what I should have gone to prison for. I would still probably be there. But I was always trying to prove myself. And so when I got into recovery, that behavior continued. It's like I was still hardcore. I would throw all my shit out on the table, not because I didn't want them to weaponize it against me, because I was trying to push people away. I always wanted to hurt you before you hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
I want to absolutely disgust you before you find out how disgusting I am.
Yeah.
And so that, I was very hard and I didn't cry. I didn't shed emotion. I thought emotion was for manipulation. I thought women cried as a form of manipulation.
What do you mean?
I know, I'm sorry. And
unless you're David.
I had a really tough show, and I actually, when I got into recovery, I stuck with the guys because I did not trust women. I did not want to. The truth is, I was ashamed to be a woman. That's really what it came down to. I was ashamed of what my womanhood represented to me. My womanhood represented being abused, raped, used, beat up, having to prove I wasn't a bag whore, having to prove that I could sell drugs just like the guys, having to prove I could be tough, having to prove that I was worthy even though my mom didn't love me, having to prove that I was valuable, no matter what the situation was. So, I wanted to be a guy. I never questioned my sexual identity, but I just really hated the fact that I was a woman. I really did. And so I stuck with the guys. Now, like Allie was saying, I'm very good at reading the room. I think that's part of my addiction experience, and I think that's also a part of my trauma. I'm very good at sensing when shit's going to go down and when to hide as a kid.
Yeah, it's like a way of defense. Like, you have to prepare yourself. You have to exactly know. Yeah.
So I would hang around the worst. I mean, I hate to say the worst, but the most non-spiritual of the crew, you know what I mean? The ones who talk about women, the ones who are just talk about sluts and all this degrading shit. And I would join in. But the truth is that it hurt me every time I heard it. I didn't know it hurt me, but it did hurt me. I didn't know that being around the same kind of individuals that I had always been around, just because people are in recovery doesn't mean that they have decided to change their entire view on life.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody does, and that's fine. But I like really subconsciously or consciously, I'm not sure, like sought out the ones who were especially not trying to like awaken to the real world. They were just clean and sober or whatever.
They were dry drunks, whatever, yeah.
But living in the same, fucking the newcomers, then calling them sluts and slut-shaming people and, behaving like the same way you did on the streets, but you're not using, basically. And so it really, I think, over time, as I slowly became a little trustworthy myself, like I was no longer stealing from people. You could take me in a store and I'd actually pay for it. Little things really add up. Mm-hmm. I started to see the women in a different light. Mm-hmm. And I really feel that as I started to see myself a little bit better, I started to see I had a better view of women in general. It slowly happened. And so I personally believe that true healing only happens in the community of safe people. Yeah. So that doesn't mean that you don't get benefit from being around everybody where there's a mixed bag of whoever. However, my true healing, my true recovery, my true growth happened in a community of safe people. And for me, that became women. And that became safe women, because not all women are safe. Yeah. But that became safe women. Women who saw past all the junk I tried to throw at them to deter them from liking me.
Yeah.
To try and just prove, I know I'm not likable. I know I'm not lovable. So let me just throw this out there.
That's bullshit. You're very lovable.
But, I'm the shit now. But back then, I thought I was a piece of crap. And so let me throw all this out there so you know. I sold drugs to pregnant people. Boom. Take that.
Ooh.
I stole from everybody. Take that. I participated in sexual abuse. I was raped and didn't care. Take that. Take that. Take that. And waiting for the show stuff, waiting for them to bounce, to just prove that I'm right about myself, really. But they stayed. And they said, me too. I did that too. I used when I was pregnant. They brought back to me what I gave and instead did it in a way of compassion. And it showed me that I wasn't broken, that there wasn't something wrong with me, that, I could actually be okay and safe. And I think that it doesn't have to be same gender, although I do feel that is the best opportunity. It takes away a lot of other outside shit, And then in time, of course, I found safe men. There was a lot of safe men. But I had to become a safe woman myself before I was able to see anybody else as safe. I was not a safe woman. I really wasn't.
Oh, no. I gathered that.
I mean, you can, no matter, we've talked about trauma and a lot of things that happened to me that were never mine to carry. But a lot of the things I did, fast forwarding past that, I was, a abuser in lots of ways of the system, of people, of the law, of, anybody around me. And so I was not a safe person. And so I had to slowly become safe to see anybody else as safe. Because I think we all project who we are on the inside or who we think we are on the inside outward.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So what do you got, Allie?
I don't.
By the way, Jen,
No.
I just texted a picture of you to Allie and said you're a badass.
Oh.
Yeah, I was trying to open the text, David, and then he called on me, and I felt kind of attacked.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's totally some shady shit right there.
She's like, I'm secretly trying to peep out this chick that's just been talking all this whole time. I sure do talk a lot. That's one.
Oh my God, no, I do too.
That's one thing I've noticed, like in this last,
Has Eric talked? Oh, Eric's still there.
Yes, I've talked.
Absorbing.
All right.
Yeah.
I think I've noticed with all this social injustice stuff happening right now is that I'm trying to learn more, and and just listen. And I notice I sure do fucking talk a lot, and I really think that it's important I do more listening.
Yeah.
Because listening without needing to respond. Obviously, we're in a podcast situation that's different, but I do notice that I have a lot to say about the things that I've experienced and that I know, but I don't listen a lot about the things that I have not experienced. And that's something that I need to work on with myself. I mean, this is what recovery is, right? Is like we constantly have this opportunity to become even more awoke. I don't like the word woke, but awoken, awakening, aware,
Dad.
Growth, whatever it is. It's like we have this opportunity now, especially the further down the road we get as we hash out all these things and, work through trauma or work through, wreckage and relationships. And as time goes on, it's like, please, the stagnancy shouldn't get there. It should just constantly be going. Like I always say this, and I'll say it again because I say it too much, but I don't want to be the same woman next year that I am talking to you guys today. I just don't. I pray to God that I'm not, and I don't think I will be, but I want to constantly be just learning more. Like we talked about harm reduction last time. Like, these are things I absolutely put my foot down and said was wrong in the early recovery. I absolutely disagreed. Sent people away. No, I will not sponsor you until you are off of your medication. No, you cannot share in this meeting because you are on methadone. No, this, no, that, And now look where I'm at today. Boom. A harm reduction advocate. Absolutely full circle. redefining your identity does not make you a liar. It means that you are growing.
Yes.
Yeah, like truth changes. As you change, your truth will change.
Oh, seriously, I had a book. My book was published last year. Last year. I'm not talking a long time. I'm talking last year. And there are sentences in that book that make me cringe. Already, in just a year time, my truth has changed. It's not the facts of my book, but it's my perception of the facts. That is my truth. That is one thing that will always be constant about me, is that, yes, my truth will always be changing. The things that I once thought were one way, I now see another way, and that's actually great. And I hope everybody sees that in themselves as great, rather than like, oh, but you used to say this. Well, yeah, I did, but now I say this. So, so take that. I don't know.
Let's continue growth. That's awesome. Yeah. I always say that too. Like, I'm like, because people, like, as I work the steps, people would be like, man, I heard you share before, and you would share this about like that situation, and now it sounded totally different or whatever. I'm like, well, one, thank you for critiquing my share. I didn't realize that I was being graded. And two, I'm like, my perception changes as I grow. So like, like early in recovery, you would have asked me, how was your childhood? I would have said, oh God, all of this stuff. But like, as I grew, I would, learn to focus more on like, hey, some good things also did happen. Like, let me talk about that. Or my mom did the best that she could with what she had. Let me not, you know what I mean? Like, so I just, it's as we grow and evolve as humans, our perception changes, and that means that everything can change. Anything can change. My question for you, Jen, is, since you had so much trauma when you came into the rooms, and we're talking about trauma, was there any steps or like any step work that you did in particular that you at first were like, oh God, no, like I can't, do this, or felt like the trauma just really affected how you work the steps, or like your willingness to work the steps, or anything of that nature?
The hardest thing for me was to turn my will and life over to a power, greater than myself, to God, whichever. Because, obviously coming from a cult, God was a God of pain and demons and just all this scary stuff. And I did it very half-assed, I guess you could say. I did a lot of stuff half-assed in the beginning. I did a lot of stuff very on the surface at first. And I think that's as far as I could go before. I think, like I said earlier, my body has always been protecting me. And so there were certain things, not maybe necessarily certain steps per se, but certain depths of the steps that made it very difficult for me, because my body was protecting me. My body has always been protecting me. And that's it just goes to speak to the power of your body and your mind. And it's just amazing. People see some of these protection responses as negative, but they actually are all just protection responses. And so I think that was probably the hardest one on paper, just that word God, because I really felt that my God, the God that that always had pain. And it's interesting because in prison, I had a moment of like divine intervention. That's when I got sober. It was May 1st, 2011 is when this big event happened. It was big for me, and I really feel that it was a power greater than myself. And it really struck me at that moment in prison that maybe that my God had not abandoned me, that he was more loving than I was shown, and that everything I was shown was of man and not really of a higher power. And so I I kind of just went really surface with that, but it's taken me some time. I still have a hard time with organized religion. I'm extremely spiritual, and I don't ever tell anybody which, God they should have, or, if they don't even have a God, that's fine. Whatever. I let people, everyone should feel comfortable and supported and safe to feel whatever they need to feel and grow. But for myself, I do still struggle. I tried to go to church last year, and it was the first time I'd been in a church, I think, since I was a young girl that I can remember. And having done so much healing work, I mean, it was just last year, so I've come so far. And I sat in the church, and all the traditions and just the scene and stuff, I started shaking. And I felt just the anxiety, and it was nothing wrong that they did, but it was just panic. And I just still feel that my connection to God has nothing to do with church, and so, I really am able today to say that why I'm here today is not really of me. It makes no medical sense. It makes no logical sense. Why I've survived I should be dead in a field 1,000,000 times over. So I am able today to say, you know what? Something bigger out there was there with me. And that something bigger was not the something bigger that was molesting me.
Mm.
Yeah. It was, so yeah. That was probably the hardest one. But everything, my first 4 steps was very also shallow. It wasn't shallow in the word, because like I said, I'm very good at throwing out every dirty thing quote unquote dirty thing I've ever done. It was all there, but my feelings behind it were not. Mm-hmm. My actually taking in what that actually felt like were not. Mm-hmm. So I had no problem writing it. I had no problem sharing it with somebody else. And but I can disconnect very easy. Mm-hmm. Even today, I still have to watch myself. I can talk about the most, difficult conversations as if I'm talking about the fucking grocery list. Mm. And I have to be careful, because that is protection. Even today, that is still my body going into protection mode to protect me from hurting, to protect me from harm, perceived harm. And so sometimes after I do an interview or I do a recording or whatever, I actually take time and sit with what I actually talked about. And because I never want to go back to running from myself. That's really the ultimate of everything I've ever done, has been running from myself, running from pain. Subconsciously and consciously. I never want to go back to that. So I even will sit with myself and really absorb what I spoke about and make sure that my body is okay with all that. And if it's not, if things are coming up for me, I do, trauma-informed yoga, a little bit of meditation. Sometimes I write, sometimes I cry.
Me too.
Yeah. Do you?
Of course he does.
Sometimes I cry, and then I'm okay, and then I'm okay.
Shut up, Eric.
I know that I haven't wounded myself by just detaching and just filling out all this stuff, anything.
Yeah, Eric, let it out. Eric, you need to cry.
No, I don't.
Eric, let it out.
You need a good cry, buddy.
About what?
The forest and
I don't know. You tell me, buddy.
The forest.
Your allergies.
Yeah. Your allergies, yes. I swear to God, honest to God, if I ever saw Eric cry, I would cry.
I think my favorite crying story for David is the one where you cried at a view. Like you just saw this beautiful.
What?
You were like, I was standing on a ridge and I saw this beautiful sunset in this fucking mountain.
Yosemite, you son of a bitch.
Why are you fucking crying?
It wasn't like a full-on ugly cry, but it was like some tearage,
No.
I have to
Was it
say,
like the gratitude tears, the like small stream of just like, oh, yeah, yeah, that's Eric. That's normal.
Thank you.
That's normal?
Thank you.
No, it's not.
Yes. Yes.
Is this a Hallmark movie? Like, no, it's not normal. What the fuck are you talking about?
That's where they get the plot. It is normal. Okay, it is normal for David.
Yes.
How about that?
Yeah, it's my normal.
There
Son of
we
a
go.
bitch.
Yes.
we're all safe. We're
Ask
all
your question,
safe.
Eric.
We're safe people, Eric. You can let it out here.
Yes.
Well, here's
We're in the trust tree.
here's
In the
my
nest of love.
here's my question. And since we're talking about trauma, and this is a group question, I feel like this, at the time of this recording, we're in early June. I think COVID's going to last at least until probably this time next year, minimum. I don't think the civil rights issues are going to be going anywhere either. And I know a lot of people are being very traumatized by both of these issues. And having them both coincide at the same time makes it probably even more stressful. And just not even looking at the whole, we won't look at the issues at hand, but looking at the psychological and emotional trauma that people are facing just going to the grocery store, having to not go to meetings, not being able to see other people. I haven't seen David for months. It's been a long time, dude. March, right? Is that the last time I saw you?
I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it.
You're tearing up there. But I'm just saying, I think from a recovery perspective, we've all been in recovery for a long time, right? So it's a little bit different for us, which doesn't mean that we're not, still affected, emotionally, spiritually, and mentally by this. Mm-hmm. But I do think about the people who are brand new. And I think holy shit, what happens when you need, you physically need the meeting? So, I mean, what do you guys think, and whoever wants to go first can go first, but how do you think this is going to affect people moving forward, in a recovery sense?
Well, Allie's running out of time, so I think she should go first.
I am. Yes, and someone just came to my house. I'm sorry, I'm having an illegal meeting, Psychotrauma illegal meeting. My home group, as you were talking, this is very relevant. People in my home group we are a fucking family. My home group is super tight, and we had a group conference last week on Zoom, and someone said, hey, does anybody have just a house that has a yard that we can just see each other? And I offered up my house, right? I was like, you guys can come here. Not everybody, we're going to be within the legal parameters of 10 or less, but it's just solely people from my home group, because it is important to see everybody and just know that it's so different to see someone on screen and be like, hey, yeah, I'm fine, I'm cool. But to actually see someone's physical being and their body language and just everything, I don't want to say appearance, but their vibe, right? That is important. And we're a close group of people. So if somebody's vibes off, I need to call them out on it. And on Zoom, you can throw up a fucking, a glamour shot of your face, and I don't really know what's going on, okay, cool. I do think that seeing in-person meetings are so important. The vibe is there, the energy there, the love. You're on Zoom, it's you're in some horrible Brady Bunch kind of everybody. I feel like I'm at a family function where whoever's the loudest is the one that's heard, and it's chaotic and it's crazy and it's a lot, and it brings up old shit, and I just want to disassociate immediately. So I think for new people, this is kind of why I wanted to, when someone suggested it, I kind of offered up my house, because we do have people we have a dude in my home group that was going to celebrate a year, and he doesn't want to do it on Zoom.
Right.
You know, because he wants to have that feeling of celebrating. Like a year clean is such a big fucking deal, and he wants that feeling. And like, who am I to say no? You should celebrate on Zoom. So yeah, just like. I think that people who are new and like maybe have never been to an actual meeting, they just found this really cool recovery online network. It might be a little shell-shocking. Like, we are a very intrusive group of human beings. I know my group, we're going to hug you. We're going to like ask your name. We're going to, I don't know, like we're just going to welcome you in and make you feel like a part of our family. And, for someone that might be a little bit standoffish or like an introvert, I think that might be kind of a shell shock, and they might prefer like the online meetings. Which I pray to God, I hope that we still have this strong online recovery thing happening post, coronavirus or new norms or whatever the fuck, post all of that. And I also, with the whole civil rights movement and just like, racial like equality, it really made me stop and look at like how am I treating everyone that comes into my home group? Am I just reaching out to the girls that look like me? Right? Like I had to like ask myself some really fucking serious questions. And moving forward, like, because it's kind of crazy. We live in such a big area, and there are meetings everywhere, and it's so easy to go to a meeting where, like, everybody knows you, and you all kind of have the same interests, and they become, like, cliquey. So, I just want to, like, make sure that, like, my home group is a place that's safe for everyone, no matter, like, age, race, sexual identity, creed, religion, or lack of religion, like what the literature talks about. And I know a lot of people are overdosing. I keep seeing it on Facebook. So, like, obviously this is a crazy time. But, I think that we can get through it no matter how long it lasts. We're addicts, man. We will adapt and, like, find new ways. If I can, like, find fucking drugs in the middle of, like, a snowmageddon, whatever we had, we got, like, 36 inches of snow, and, like, I was still out copying. Like, I can... get the help that I need and maybe help somebody else. So yeah, that's what I got. I love you guys. Eric, I know every time I say that now, Eric, I have to tell you I have a complex. Because like, I'm like, fuck, am I the person that like throws the I love you?
Oh,
I don't know.
Oh yeah, we talked about the love thing on one of the Thanks for Sharing episodes, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I'm that fucking person. Like, I had no idea.
Well, Allie, for your sake, I love you.
Yeah.
Right? Is that what I'm supposed to do?
Sake.
Is that what
Yes. Yes.
I'm trying, David. I'm trying.
That is what you're supposed to do, Eric.
I'm trying. Baby steps. Maybe next time I'll cry at like a turtle or some shit. I don't know.
No,
maybe
next time you see a beautiful sunset, you'll just let out one of those, you know what, like, fuck yeah, this is awesome, and just a little tear, just like a little, it doesn't even need a fall, it just needs to, like, produce in the duct, that's enough.
Just a little mist around the eyes, and that's a win. That is such a huge win for me. He said he loved me once. I remember. It was a Thursday. It was beautiful.
Man, I have to say though, Eric, that just made my entire week. My entire fucking month has been made. Like, because I was like, after that conversation we had, I started to be more aware of like how often I tell people that I love them. But like I do, I truly genuinely love a lot of people. I also do not like a lot of people, and I will not say I love you to them. But like I do, man. I love people. I love certain people. And I fucking love you guys. And Jen, I don't know you, but I can tell I really like you. And we have definitely the potential.
Yay!
Dude, Jen's fucking awesome. I love Jen.
I'm gonna get off of here. You know what, Jen, fuck it. I love you too. I love all of you guys.
I'm the same. I'm an I love you girl too. I didn't
You know
love
why?
anybody. I didn't love anybody for so long that now I'm just like, I am fucking full of love. I really am.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, and using, like, I couldn't fucking love you. I could not allow myself the luxury of feeling that emotion for anybody else. So, like, I deprived myself of that emotion for so long. And, like, that's just one of the gifts that, like, I've gotten back in recovery is the ability to allow myself to love another human being.
So true.
So I love you guys. I'm going to go see some of my homies. I guess I will talk to you all next week.
Yay.
Love
bye.
you. Have a good night.
All right, you too, guys. Bye.
All right, so who's
Jen?
next? And I
Jen or
I don't know,
David?
but that's really funny because I say I love you guys to you, and Eric. I didn't know Eric was probably cringing the whole time.
No.
yeah.
It's not a cringe. It's not a cringe. I haven't really. I don't think I've released.
It's awkward.
No. It's not awkward. It's more like I place the word. I feel like it can be used
It's
a
very
little loose.
sacred.
Yeah, I feel like it could
okay.
be used very loosely in recovery sense. And like I just
Okay.
like I don't even say I love you to my parents. You know what I mean? So it's like it's very I don't use it as a loose term.
Right.
But I'm trying, guys. I'm trying.
There you
One
go.
day at a time,
That's,
right?
that's all we can ask for.
Yep.
That's all we
That's
can
great.
ask for.
Next year,
What was the question?
Next year, you might be throwing "I love yous" all across the board.
Maybe.
You just never know.
Oh,
You don't
God.
know. Maybe I will.
Never know. Yep. Okay, what was the question with all the trauma?
Yeah, I totally forgot the question.
It was the trauma. Like, how do you feel that this trauma is going to affect people in recovery?
All right. So I think with everything happening and everything happening all at once, I think it's a very polarizing thing for all of us because I think we're seeing a lot of people's their true nature in a sense. I want to keep as much morality or politics out of it as possible, but I think it's more about the people that you can see are living in the solution and the people that are living in the problem. And I think that's something that we all have to look at individually and socially. But obviously it starts with ourselves and like one by one, like dealing with like COVID, it like, how are we individually doing what's best for ourselves socially? Like how are we interacting with everybody in the world? And then how are we getting through this personally through recovery? Are we staying active? Are we making sure we're plugged into our people, our network, our fellowship, whatever? Are we doing the work on ourselves that needs to be done? And then on top of the social unrest that's going on right now, which I think is a very judicious way of saying that, it's the same thing. Are you living in a solution or are you living in a problem? And I really think there's healthy ways that people are dealing with this, and I think there's very unhealthy ways that people are dealing with this. And I think it this whole year, I think, has been a lot about really self-reflection and inventory of what's important in our lives, because like some of those relationships that we may have thought were important a year ago, maybe we haven't seen those people or talked to them so much, and vice versa. Maybe they haven't reached out to us in a certain amount of time. So it's been a good chance for us to really take stock in those people that are reaching out, that are making sure that we're okay, and that we're making sure that those other people are okay. So I think it's actually breeding a lot of work ethic into people's lives and to the recovery community, because it's not just go here at this time get your free cup of coffee, sit down and listen or don't listen, be in the room, and then go home. It's more about, what are you willing to do for your recovery? What are you willing to do in these times of great stress to get through it as an individual and as a collective?
Yeah, that's a good answer.
Thank you.
I've composed myself now. Oh my God. That was like the best laugh earlier that I've had in a while. Yeah, so all of that, what you said, yeah, I think that, so there's two things with online recovery, right? I think that online recovery support, online recovery community, whatever, I think is wonderful. I think that it's great. I think that I'm so freaking grateful that it's there. Even before any of this, I'm just so grateful I get to speak to people all across the world. There's people that don't have access, like in America and the U.S., we have lots of recovery treatment centers and groups and meetings, but there is places in the world where it is not as plentiful, and so these are all wonderful things. These are all amazing things, and we also get to explore outside opinions, like differences of opinions, differences of journeys, different healing stuff. Thank God that there's people talking about other stuff, so we can hear about EMDR. So we can hear, things that aren't maybe necessarily a conversation in your home group or in maybe your little circle or whatever. These are all great. On the flip side, you can paint yourself, how you're feeling, what you're really doing. You can paint whatever picture you would like, and everyone else can do the same.
Mm-hmm.
So not only can it be a way to hide what's really going on with you, what you're really struggling with, you can also be trying to keep up with what someone else is painting as they're, going through these experiences. They're painting it in a certain way. So it's very difficult. There's a lot of comparison that can happen, a lot of, shame that can happen if you're not feeling, I remember like when this first, just talking about the virus necessarily or whatever, but there was a lot out there about, this is a great time to just sit and get and introspect and learn a new hobby. And you can write that book and learn yoga, and everybody's slowing down. I have children, okay? So there has not been a single moment of slowing down. Everybody's been home and going nuts. My daughter, obviously she's a toddler, so she's already like that. But my son is used to being in school, constantly active, craft, schedule to nothing. Right? He also has some emotional issues with being at home. He is also, a 7-year-old, is also experiencing some trauma of not being with his friends and not being in school, and the fear of what is the virus? What are protests, Mom? A lot of this stuff, no matter how much, I try to not, I don't really believe in sheltering children, but I do believe in age appropriateness. So, it's not like I sit and talk about, real graphic stuff or anything, but he knows, he sees, so it's like, what is this stuff, Mom? It's basically asking me, is it something I need to be afraid of? So I haven't really, I have I haven't got shit. Let me just tell you that we've been on lockdown for I don't know how long. I haven't got shit done. There's not one new hobby. I haven't learned one new craft. There's been many, many days where I have been hanging on to my ass. To not hanging, I'm 9 years in recovery, so no, the obsession to drink and use has been lifted. However, there's many other harmful, negative things that I do that take me away from pain. So, and take me away from stress and, avoidance. This is something that, comes very that's my first response, avoidance, you know? And so I've been a lot of times just really surviving through the day. And I think that it's important that people really share what's really going on because, like I said, with anything, then it lets other people know that they're not alone. And it really, you know, doesn't matter how long you have in recovery. This shit is fucking weird. It has thrown us all off whatever our schedule was. And and schedule is very important to people in recovery, I think. Just having those certain things you do, to have those gone. And not only that, you add in financial stress. Many people have lost their jobs.
Yeah.
Or had their jobs altered. You know, you add in the stress, of course, of everything looking strange with the mask on. And a lot of times, trauma is not even something we're aware of.
Yeah.
Many people don't even realize that they are experiencing the effects of trauma. So all these things put together, I mean, I really, what's really obviously being that I am in recovery from heroin, and I do work with, you know, a nonprofit that's specifically for people with opioid addiction, that we were making a lot of headway in the opioid epidemic as a whole. Not saying that we were doing great, but we were making a lot of headway. And that has all been turned around. This virus, statistically, I'm just going to say, with the numbers that we're showing, with overdoses, with people being able to get their harm reduction supplies, with all these things, nobody's, you know, it's like the delivery services, you know, there used to be clinics open. All these things have been altered so much that people are just, I mean, it's a lot of death happening right now.
Yeah. Honestly, I hadn't really thought about that, but yeah, a lot of like the methadone clinics, like they got a lot of them got closed down. Like
a lot of them got closed.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that until right this moment. Like,
so
I don't think that would those have been deemed essential.
Well, here's the thing.
I thought it was
they were sort of
though. I thought they were doing take homes.
But here's the thing with take homes. This is the problem, is that there are laws about take homes. So take homes are not available, number one, especially to someone who's new into the methadone clinic. You have to have a substantial amount of time in, I don't know if they're all different lengths of time or if it's all standard, but you have to have a certain amount of time before you are eligible to qualify for take homes. So many people, especially the ones who really, really need it, do not qualify for take homes.
Yeah.
The laws prevent also distributing large amounts of Suboxone, even, you know, to people from clinics, you know, obviously, but just I'm talking about the people on the streets, in the clinics, free clinic, whatever. So a lot of that, it took time. And the amount of time it took for them to finally see, we got to change something for this particular time in the world. We got to do something because people are not able to get their medication. And if you've ever been on methadone, withdrawing from methadone is a fucking hell worse than heroin. You know, it's a fucking nightmare from hell. So everyone went back to their heroin, of course, because they couldn't get in. The lines are incredibly long. Many of these people have underlying health issues. Just because you're on methadone doesn't mean you're not afraid to die from a virus.
Yeah.
So you factor in all these things, and we have taken a huge downward turn in the opioid epidemic as a whole. That is going to be something we are going to have to face a big aftermath when this place opens back up. It is going to be rough in that perspective, especially in medication assisted treatment, recovery, whatever, you know, maintenance, whatever. That's there's going to be a lot of people that either will have died or are back out on the streets right now. That's one thing, you know, and then just for those of us in recovery, you know, it's like I said, this whole everything has been upturned and turned upside down, and there is really no end in sight. Our children are traumatized. Nobody knows what's going to happen with the schools. Everything's so unknown. And I kind of feel like I got into recovery to lose that. Like I don't want to live my life like that anymore, where everything's just so up in the air and there's no control. Hence, trauma, the opposite of trauma is choice. So you take away all these choices. I have no choice over what happens. I'm just waiting for the next email from the school. I'm just waiting for, and I'm just kind of in my life is kind of in the hands of freaking Trump and God knows who else. And so it's gonna be a big. My 3-year-old just came in. She's had her max of her candy and quiet. She's done.
Well, then I think that is the Saved by the Bell moment.
Yeah.
So
She is, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we would like to thank our guest Jen for joining us again.
I love you. Here.
Yeah, we love you, Jen.
I love you guys.
Have so many more talks to have in the future.
Oh wait, I love you, Jen.
I love you, Eric.
Whoa!
I know.
That's huge. That's a big moment.
There's different.
I'm
There's
trying.
so much growth in this podcast.
Such a
trying.
breakthrough, right?
Trying, guys.
It's
It's a one day at a time
I'm so
thing.
proud of you,
It's
Eric.
a one day at a time.
It is.
I'm so proud of you, Eric.
It really is. It's really great. I appreciate it. Okay.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for joining us on another meeting after the meeting with Jen, Eric, Allie, and myself. Go check out our Twitter, our Instagram, our Facebook, our YouTube channel. Please, if you are so generous, please check out our PayPal, our Venmo, and our I totally forgot it.
Yeah, Patreon. We have a Patreon.
Patreon.
We need to shout them out.
Yes, please send us some money so we can keep up with our equipment costs and all those good things
Who's our Patreon?
to keep podcast recovery alive and well. For more information, go to podcastrecovery.com. But most importantly, everybody out there, please stay safe and stay clean.